Hello, this is Mrs. McClure, and the purpose of this video is to give you some more information and review on argument. What is an argument? What are the parts of an argument? And how do we think critically about arguments? So how do we analyze and evaluate them to see if they are good and convincing and if we should believe them? Okay, so the power of persuasion. A movie trailer that introduces audiences to the latest action-packed blockbuster, a newspaper editorial that discusses the problem of pollution, a political speech that unveils a new policy proposal. What do all of these have in common? Well, they all use the power of persuasion to convince you to do or believe something. They all make arguments or claims to try to persuade you, the listener. So, what exactly is an argument? Persuasive writers and speakers use all kinds of special techniques to convince their audiences. But to really be effective, a writer or speaker needs to have a strong argument. At the heart of any argument is a claim or a writer's position on a problem or an issue. A writer must prove the claim by providing reasons and evidence, also known as support. So you can't just make a claim, you have to also back it up with support to prove what you think to be true and valid. Okay, so here's some examples. A claim in an advertisement. Clean Up laundry detergent is the best detergent on the market. Right? The claim here is that this particular type of detergent is the best one out there, right? So if you saw this in an advertisement, the purpose would be they're trying to convince you or persuade you that this brand is the best, right? That's their claim. And in that advertisement, they wouldn't be able to just say that. They would have to back it up with some support, which we'll talk about in a second. Here's another example. A claim in a political speech. I'm the candidate who is the most prepared to tackle the difficult issues that our community faces. Their claim is that I am the best person for this job, for this position, because I'm willing to tackle tough issues. Okay, so if this is maybe how their speech would start, right? And then they would have to give a lot of support to prove their claim to be true. A claim in an editorial. A policy that bans cell phones from school grounds will cause more problems than it will solve. The claim here is that we should not ban cell phones, right? It's not going to be positive. It's going to cause more problems, actually. Okay, so that would be this person's claim, and then in the rest of their argument, they would have to talk about why that is true, and they'd have to give support, right, and explain why their claim is right. A claim in a lecture. Volunteering will benefit you as much as the people you are helping. So if you were listening to a lecture, this person would be trying to convince you should volunteer, right? Volunteering is just as good for you as a person as it is for those that you are helping. So that is this person's claim. And again, as their lecture went on, they'd have to give support to show that their claim is true. So let's practice identifying a claim. When analyzing any persuasive text, examine it closely to identify the claim. Ask yourself, what does the writer or the speaker want me to believe or do after reading this passage? Our community center is in dire need of improvement. Residents have been complaining about it for months. To begin with, much of the equipment should be replaced. The children's sports gear is falling apart, and the exercise equipment is outdated. Also, the swimming pool needs to be repainted. Okay, so which of these sentences states the writer's claim, the argument that they're making? Our community center is in dire need of improvement, right? That is their claim, right? The rest of this is support to prove that claim to be true, right? They're saying that the equipment needs to be replaced. Sports gear is falling apart. The swimming pool needs to be repainted, right? Residents have been complaining. That's all support that, hey, our community center needs improvement. So that would be their claim, that first sentence there. Support for a claim. A writer must support a claim with reasons that answer the question why. For instance, a political candidate might argue that he or she is the better person for a position. As part of the argument, the candidate should offer reasons that answer the question. Why am I a better choice than my opponent? Okay, so reasons answer the question why. So if we take a look at this example, this person running as a political candidate could perhaps give a reason that my plan for the community improvement will be more effective than my opponent's plan. So they're saying, I have a plan and it'll be more effective. That is a reason that supports their claim. I'm a better choice. Another reason they might give is I have more experience than my opponent. So these are both examples of reasons. They're not evidence, they're reasons. So if let's say this political candidate is giving a speech and they say, I'm a better choice than my opponent, that's their claim. And then they give the reason of, I have more experience. Awesome. They would need to go even further and give some evidence about their experience that they say that they have. So they might list all of the different jobs that they've had. Like those would be facts. That would be evidence to back up the reason I have more experience. So this brings us to thinking about evidence. Evidence is specific information that is used to back up a reason. Here are some common examples of different types of evidence. Okay, so there are facts. This could be used as evidence. And a fact is a statement that can be proved true. If you're unsure if a fact is true, try to confirm it using a reliable or trustworthy source, such as a book or a newspaper. So something that is absolutely true and has been proven true by reputable sources. Evidence can be a quotation. Quotations are the documented record of someone's comments about a topic. So a direct quotation, something that someone said. And a persuasive text or writer may use an expert opinion, which is a statement made by an authority on a subject. So if a doctor is quoted as saying something, that would be an expert opinion, a quotation that somebody could use as evidence in their argument. You can use an example for evidence, and an example is a specific instance that illustrates a general idea. Sometimes examples are called case studies, especially when they are based on scientific research. You could use a statistic, some numbers, some percentages. A statistic is a fact given in number form. Writers often include statistics in their texts, but statistics may also be presented in the form of charts or graphs. So that is also evidence. To prove your point, you can use numbers. Lastly, an anecdote. And an anecdote is a brief account of an event that can be used to illustrate a point. The story might be about the writer's experience or about another person or a group of people. So in the Is Survival Selfish selection, the author gives an anecdote about she and her friend at the train station. Right? That was a personal story about something that happened to her. You can use that as evidence, right? That helped. That was true. It was real, right? It's valid evidence, and it helped prove her claim. So that is another thing that can be used as evidence. So let's practice identifying some different types of evidence real quick. Each box below contains a different type of evidence. All of the evidence supports the following claim and reason. Clean Up laundry detergent is the best detergent on the market. That's their claim, and the reason that it is the best is Clean Up laundry detergent can handle tough stains better than other leading brands. Okay, so these are all potential pieces of evidence that this advertisement might include to convince you that, hey, this laundry detergent is the best. A credible national survey found that 75% of households believe that cleanup can handle tough stains better than the other leading brands. So what type of what type of evidence is that? Is it an anecdote, a story? Is it a statistic? Is it a fact? Or is it a quotation? I would say it's a statistic because it uses numbers, right? 75% of households. Are you tired of tough stains that refuse to go away? I've raised 7 rowdy boys, and cleanup is the only detergent that I trusted to take out those tough stains, Ava Robbins says. Well, this is a quotation from somebody named Ava Robbins who has raised a lot of kids, and she says that this detergent works. So that would be an example of a quotation for evidence. The Hale was strolling outside in her, or Tia Hale was strolling outside in her white linen dress. A car roared by, spraying mud all over her. Cleanup got the stains out. Since this incident, she will only use cleanup. So that is kind of like a story, right, about something that happens to this girl. So that is an anecdote. So we know that writers or authors or speakers make arguments to convince you of something. They make a claim, which is the point they're trying to prove. And then they support that claim with reasons and then specific evidence to back up those reasons. But when we're listening to arguments, we have to be critical about the evidence that we're being presented. So we have to think, is this evidence any good? Does it make sense? So let's take a quick look at this example. Which evidence below best supports the claim and reason? So the claim is a policy that bans cell phones from school grounds will cause more problems than it will solve. Okay. And then the reason that this claim is true is such a policy would upset parents who depend on cell phones to stay in touch with their children. So it's all about parents and upsetting parents. Okay, so we have 3 pieces of evidence here, and we have to decide which one would be the best to support this reason. When Wheeler High School imposed a cell phone ban, many students still brought their phones to school. Okay, cell phones tend to distract students during class, Mr. Yates said. 60% of parents surveyed said that they would be upset if their kids could not carry cell phones. So which piece of evidence here, they're all related to cell phones, but which one is the strongest support for the reason such a policy would upset parents who depend on a cell phone to stay in touch with their children? Well, it would be this one, right? 60% of parents surveyed said they'd be upset if kids couldn't carry their phones. And it's because it is directly related to the idea of parents being upset, right? These other 2 could potentially be valid evidence for different parts of the argument, but for this particular reason, this evidence makes the most sense. So ultimately, when you are analyzing evidence, looking at the evidence that the author or the speaker provides, you're asking yourself, is it valid? Is it trustworthy? Can I believe it? Is it true? Is it relevant? Is it related to the argument and to the claim? And lastly, is it sufficient? Is there enough evidence provided to convince the audience or the reader that their claim is true? All right, now that you've watched this video, you should be getting to work on the TED Talk project for the week. It is located in the week of April 27 to May 1st folder in Schoology. There are instructions in there. Make sure you read them carefully and have fun listening to a TED Talk and evaluating that argument.